it was night. Lucy could not forget that day, when her beloved Benjamin was taken away from her, neither guilty nor owed. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Johanna started to cry in the cradle, and Lucy gently picked her up. The knock on the door became louder, and with Johanna in her arms, Lucy ran to the door, opening it wide. The rat-like face of Judge Turpin's lackey appeared in the doorway, standing there with no word or direction. Without a word or direction, she was grabbed by him and pulled down the street.
"Where are we going?"
she asked fearfully.
"To the master, the boss,"
the man said with a sigh.
"Excuse me, but who are you?"
Lucy asked in astonishment. She tried to pull back, but the man was still pulling her towards him. It was clear to Lucy who the man's boss was. Arriving at Judge Turpin's stately home, the footman ushered a bewildered Lucy into the ballroom. A woman with an unusually strange hairstyle, wearing a cat mask, happily approached the waiter from the trail and took a drink from the tray he was holding in his hands and replaced it with her own drink. Lucy noticed that she was at a masquerade ball, and a waiter approached her from the side, bringing her a drink. She started to fumble around in confusion when out of nowhere a grey-haired man with a mask pushed her onto the couch. The people around Lucy started to laugh, except for one person, that woman with the cat mask. She had to react somehow. The man took off his mask, and it was Judge Turpin. Lucy started screaming. The woman with the cat mask turned in the direction of the serving table, noticed the waiter leaving the tray on the table, and got an idea. To everyone's astonishment, that same woman hit Turpin hard on the head a couple of times with a tray. Turpin lay motionless on the couch, while Lucy, still in shock and terror, watched in a daze at all the people laughing while being abused by this corrupt man. She pushed Turpin off of her, and later he found himself unconscious, face down on the floor.
"The show's over, folks,"
said the woman with the cat mask on her face. She grabbed the distraught Lucy by the arm and dragged her away, while the poor thing still seemed distraught. The masked woman turned to her, with the mask covering half her face. Lucy could see the saviour give her a sweet smile. However, that woman's eyebrows were bent, giving a sad expression.
"Thank you,"
Lucy said through bitter tears.
"What was I supposed to do? To laugh like the others? At least I have a little heart, dearie, just so you know,"
said the masked woman. The two women finally, after a few minutes of running down Fleet Street, stopped in front of a bakery. Lucy couldn't read the sign because the woman dragged her inside and slammed the door hard.
"Who are you?"
Lucy asked. Even though she asked the most ordinary question, the woman dragged her down the well-decorated kitchen with leftover dough and traces of flour on the table. In the room they passed on entering, there were many cakes and pies of various kinds, which smelled beautiful. On the bakery's door was a closed sign facing away. Lucy then remembered the woman to whom she often came for bread every morning, with a sweet smile and her hair loosely tied in 2 buns, since the baker did not have time to do her hair, especially in the morning, because she had a lot of work waiting for her in the early hours. She never knew the woman's name, but her dishevelled, poorly tied hair with 2 irresistible bows was recognizable to her.
"I must go, my baby is at home,"
said Lucy, and she rose, when the woman took her hand and said,
"I'll go and get the baby. It's dangerous for you and her. Understand me, I'm afraid for you both. That man is capable of anything. Maybe Turpin will come to your house and try to do it again. I can't even let me say that.
"I don't want to be in the way."
You're a stupid creature. You'd rather take the risk."
Lucy looked at the woman, then at the floor, and after some thought, she made up her mind.
"Okay. Thank you, ma'am."
The woman slowly placed her delicate hands in pink flowered gloves behind her head, untied the ribbon that held the mask to her face, and revealed a pale but beautiful face with rosy cheeks and tired, large almond brown eyes.
"You are that baker. What was your name?"
Nellie Lovett. Out of respect, Mrs. Lovett. Nell, ma'am. Call me whatever you like, dear.
"Nellie. What a lovely name."
Don't hold me back, Miss Barker. I have to pop over to your house to get the baby. You'll thank me later.
That's how the woman disappeared, ran out into the street, while that big, pink puffy dress swayed behind her, as Lucy saw through the window of the house. She waited a few minutes, closing the window tightly, afraid that Turpin would see her from somewhere. She heard footsteps, and a baby crying, and a voice trying to silence her cries. She knew that Nellie had brought her daughter. Finally.
"Thank you. For everything."
Just so you know, I didn't do this for you.
What do you mean?
You are his wife. He was a good man. Let's hope he comes back.
Lucy knew she was talking about Benjamin, her husband, who had been thrown into prison on false charges against him. Lucy and Lovett talked briefly about Benjamin, during which they shed a few tears. Lovett said that she was jealous of her for a while because she had Benjamin, that she even wanted to help Turpin to poison her with arsenic and get her out of the way to Benjamin. She mixed the poison in Lucy's drink, gave it to the waiter, but afterwards she felt guilt and pangs of conscience. So she still switched her and Lucy's drinks and decided to save her.
It's my fault, I know.
I don't blame you. I blame jealousy. It can be a very insidious and cunning thing. I'm glad you repented after all.
15 years passed, and the Barker family's apartment remained empty. Lucy had been taking refuge in Lovett's bakery for years while avoiding Turpin and his minions. It wasn't much, but out of gratitude Lucy helped Lovett with her bakery. Lucy and Johanna lived happily with Lovett, who was not only kind, but also a good baker, who hosted crowds of people and children who would jump to her bakery. She didn't have much money, because she was a person who buys more clothes and cute things that catch her eye and she can't resist the temptation. But she was a happy person, with a lot of smiles or too many. A ship stopped in the port, from where Anthony and his friend, who doesn't talk much, Benjamin, got out. After a silent greeting, Benjamin went to Fleet Street and passed a bakery with a group of children in front. Through the window, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a beautiful woman with long brown hair, flower on a slightly pointed nose, a sweet smile and a tired look. He went to his home next door, climbed the stairs to a modest apartment, opened the door with a smile and no one, only solitude and a breeze blowing through the half-open window.
Where are they? 15 years of waiting for this.
He pounded on the door lightly in disbelief and went down. He didn't know where to go. All he heard was the laughter of his missing wife in his ears, his daughter's cries, and his stomach growling. He turned his head, looked at the sign Mrs. Lovett's. He opened his nostrils to smell the divine smell, and, he didn't know why, walked slowly in the direction of the bakery, whose line of hungry stomachs was winding down. He went inside, while Lovett heard the bell above the door and exclaimed,
Another customer.
As soon as the door whined open, Lucy's head craned up, her beautiful locks of yellow hair hugging her neck. Then her eyes widened in wonder. She looked at that face. Those eyes, that little tear on the face of a man in his 40s that was so unfamiliar and yet so familiar.
Benji.
What? I didn't hear you.
Benji! She grabbed him by the shoulders, stained his coat with floury hands. The man her fingernails were digging into the back of was almost unrecognizable. With pale skin, dark circles around his eyes, even scarring on his arms. But this man, almost a stranger, was making her eyes well up with tears. 15 years. 15 long, empty years without the man she promised to spend her life with. Those dark, brooding eyes of his widened. He began slowly shaking his head in disbelief. This was his wife, and she looked just as beautiful as ever. He held a hand over his mouth as his eyes went glossy.
Lucy, I've missed you.
Benjamin's hands ran down the small of Lucy's back as he tightly pulled her head against his chest. Tears bled from his eyes in a fountain of joy. He pressed his lips against her golden hair and held them there, while closing his eyes in hopes of the moment never ending. The author who wrote the story is Tamara Mićunović. All credit goes to her and her wonderful creation. Animated by Ahsoka on Earth. Thank you for watching.